Greetings and welcome. This webinar by the League of Women Voters of Wisconsin provides an introduction on how to track and influence bills in the Wisconsin State Legislature. I'm Andrea Kaminsky, and I've been the League's registered lobbyist since 2005. This webinar will offer the basics on how to use 3 tools. I'll show you how to set up how to look up bills on the Wisconsin Legislature website, how to set up notifications, which you also do on the Legislature website, so that updates on legislation will come to your email inbox. And finally, how to follow lobbying in the state capitol so you'll know who's lobbying our lawmakers, what positions they're advocating, and how much they're spending on their lobbying efforts. First, a disclaimer. The websites I'll cover are occasionally changed, especially at the start of a new legislative session. So the links I'll describe might not always be right where these slides show them to be. However, if you look around on the web pages, you will likely be able to find what you're looking for. The Wisconsin Legislature website, which has a URL of I'll just point to it here. A URL of legis.wisconsin.gov has more information than I've tapped in my 13 years as a lobbyist, and certainly more than we can cover today. But I'll point out a few particularly useful items. One is that notification service, which I'll come back to. Another is, who are my legislators? And here you can type in your address and get the name, contact information, and other information about your representatives. There's also a committee schedule, which is a useful link that we won't have time to discuss today, but it's worth exploring when you have a chance. Going on down, there's the law and legislation section, and this is where you can look up bills, and we'll spend some time looking at that. Now, if we could scroll down further, you would also see a section in the lower right column called More Information, which I'll show in the next slide. Here it is. This information, these are great resources that can help you understand the legislative process and more generally, the structure of state government in Wisconsin. This is a very helpful section. To look up a bill, you go back to that home page, and on the left column there was the law and legislation section. And here you can type in either the bill number or a subject. Obviously, if you have the actual bill number, you'll get a more precise result. I typed in SB 53 for Senate Bill 53, and I got this page. You'll see that SB 53 is right at the top of the list, and you'll note that there are other related bills, including AB 53, which is not related in topic, but I think the website designers must have known how easy it is to mix up AB and SB, so they were trying to be helpful. So I'm going to, I click on SB 53 at the top, and the next slide will show the screen that will open. This is the history for the bill. It's got the full history of the bill's progress through the legislative process with a few of the more important actions right up at the top. If you could see this whole page, you'd see a long list of actions in the history section at the bottom, but we're going to go through a few of these right now. Near the top, there are links to such things as the bill text, the Legislative Council Amendment Memo, and fiscal estimates. There's a very helpful link right here that where you can actually add this bill to your legislative notifications, which I'll show you how to set up in the next slide. Under the heading See Also, right here, there is a link to the companion bill in the other house of the legislature. There's usually one companion bill from each house, but only one of the two bills actually progresses through the legislature in most cases. So if you don't see much history on a bill, be sure to click into its companion bill, which might actually be the one that's moving. Now in this history section, the long section at the bottom, the left column shows the date of each step or action in the legislative process, followed by which house the bill is in at that time. This one started in the Senate, so you see SEN after all these first dates. If you could follow the history on down the page, you see that it was eventually passed by the Senate and messaged to the Assembly. And in fact, the date that it was messaged to the Assembly it would show up in this important actions section at the top. You may find that the fiscal elements right here, which are linked on this page, offer simple language on how the state agencies would go about implementing the legislation if it becomes law, and what it would cost them. That's, it often is a very helpful thing in your advocacy to know that information. And finally, this bill tells you which committee the bill is in at any particular time, and also lists the hearings and the committee votes in committee. Now I'll show you how to set up your legislative notification service, which you can access back on that home page of the Wisconsin legislature website. If you click on the notification service link right here, which is currently under the photo, but as I said, these websites can change, and certainly the photos change. You'll get what's on the next slide, which is this. You can see here that you'll have to create an account to set up your notification service. This is free and it's easy to do. You just have to supply your email address and create a password to establish your account. And then you'll be able to follow legislation by using keywords or subjects or actual bill numbers. You may also choose to follow certain committees or certain legislators. For example, if you want to be notified of what your own state senator is up to at any point, or say if you want to see what bills are in, for instance, the Assembly Campaigns and Elections Committee. This is a very helpful service. Once you have created your notification service account, you can set up parameters to follow the topics that you're interested in. Then you'll get emails that will tell you when a bill is introduced that addresses any subject, committee, or legislator that you are following. In setting up the notifications, I recommend that you focus on a small number of bills or subjects to begin with, so you don't get inundated with more information than you can handle. And remember, you can always go back into your notifications account and change, add, or delete notification parameters so that you get the information that you want and nothing more. And so you can see that I have several subjects here. If we could click on proposals, I would have specific bill numbers listed, committees that I'm following, certain legislators I'm following, and so on. Here is an example of an email I received from my notification service, and it has information on certain subjects that I was following. You can see it says subject subscriptions here. Further down in the email, there's probably one that says committee subscriptions and so forth. But I'm just going to show these. And so based on these subjects, there are a certain number of proposals that turn up. You can see that AB 165 was sent to the governor for his signature in November. If you scroll down a little bit, AB 637 right here had a public hearing scheduled. And actually, you can click on the link to the public hearing notice, and that will tell you the date, time, and location of the hearing. Now, I want to go to a different website, and that is the Wisconsin Ethics Commission's Eye on Lobbying website. The URL is lobbying.wi.gov. Here you can find out who is lobbying our lawmakers, what they're lobbying about, what their positions are, how much time and money they spend on trying to influence the legislature. Lobbyists and the organizations that pay them, which are called lobbying principals, are required to report their interest in a bill within 15 days of communicating with an official about it. The League does this. I do this as a registered lobbyist, and so do hundreds of others. We also have to report the amount of paid time and the expenses that we put into lobbying and we do that every 6 months in January and July. So that information is not quite as up to the minute as those 15-day reports, but it is very interesting nonetheless. If you want to see on this website who is lobbying on a particular bill and what their positions are, you can go back to that home page and click on the What Are They Lobbying About link in the top menu. That will open this page, and here you have to click on Bills in the left-hand menu, and then enter the bill number or keyword here to find the bill. When you do this, things that can kind of catch you up would be you have to be sure that you have the right legislative session in the top, and that usually defaults to the current session, and the right legislative house. This says Assembly. I was looking up AB 499, but it might be a Senate bill, so then we'd have to choose Senate. And also note that if it's a special session bill, you'll have to choose you'll have to go to this menu and choose the special session. And then you click the word search. And that will bring you to the next page. Here I had entered AB 499, and it gives me this to choose from, and I say, yep, that's the one I want, and I click on that to highlight it. Then I have to go down to the bottom and click View. When I typed in, then when I did that, it gave me this screen, which lists all of the organizations that have registered an interest in AB 499. You can see that some lobbying principals, those are the organizations that pay lobbyists, have registered for the bill, and there's a little green up arrow. Others have registered against it, and there's a red down arrow. Some principals do not register for or against a bill. They might register other. They might be undecided, or they might just want to provide information about the legislation without actually taking a position. And the League does that sometimes too. So that showed you how to look up who's lobbying on a particular piece of legislation. Alternately, you might want to look at a particular organization or lobbying principle and see what they're lobbying on in total and how much they're spending. For example, let's look at the League of Women Voters of Wisconsin's lobbying page. To do that, I go back to the home page of the Eye on Lobbying website, and I click on Who is Lobbying. That opens a screen where I have to click on Lobbying Principles in the left-hand menu. And that will open this screen where I typed in the words League of Women Voters. Now, had I typed in just League or just women, a lot of organizations would come up, and I'd have to find the one that I'm looking for. But I typed in League of Women Voters and then click Search, and that gives me the next slide, where again I have to click on the name of the organization I want to highlight it, and then click View at the bottom of the page. Personally, I think it takes too many clicks on this website to find what you're looking for. But hey, I'm not a website designer, not by a long shot, and this is the way it works. So now I'm in the League of Women Voters of Wisconsin lobbying page on the ION Lobbying website. And you'll see here that there are 4 links at the top of the page, or 4 tabs. One is the profile, which is what we're looking at. It's just very general information about the organization. The second one is the authorized lobbyists, and that's where you would see my name as the registered lobbyist and a little bit of information about whether I'm up to date on my lobbyist registration. You'd find, and then there are 2 others that will go in a little more detail. One is lobbying interests of the League of Women Voters, and the other is lobbying efforts. So let's go to the lobbying interests page. If you click on that, back there, this is the page you get. And you will see a list of all the bills and subjects that we've lobbied on or even taken a position on in this legislative session. If you want to look back a few years, you can go up here and change the session. And for each bill, there are links to the bill text, so you can look that up, and the history, that legislative history that I showed you earlier, and even to the statute if the bill becomes a law. If you click on the name of the bill, you will get a page that shows all of the lobbying principals that have registered an interest on that particular bill and see whether they support, oppose, or simply comment on it. And so you remember that page that we had for AB 499, we could get a similar one for this bill if we were able to click on it. You'll notice that the League has registered positions on the various bills. In some cases, we oppose them. In some cases, we support them. We can also enter brief comments that when we register on the bill, and that comes up as this little icon here. And this paperclip icon actually leads to a statement that we wrote and submitted to a public hearing on this bill. So there's a lot of information you can access from this page. Next, we'll click in on the Lobbying Efforts tab and find out how much the League has spent to do its lobbying. The Lobbying Efforts screen is where you can see how much paid time and other expenses the League has devoted to its lobbying. Now, volunteer lobbying time is not tracked on this website. We only are required to report paid lobbyist time. And so I'll tell you, one of the strengths of the League of Women Voters is that we have hundreds of volunteers who talk to their legislators about legislation. And that is not captured on this page. It really makes a difference. Now, if we could scroll down on this page, you would see all of this information broken out over all of the bills that we've lobbied on this session. So you'd see some bills would have more time devoted to them than others. And you can look back through the various sessions, go back a number of years, and see the history of the League's lobbying. And as I mentioned earlier, we report our lobbying efforts every 6 months. So there's a little bit of a lag in the reporting time and the legislation. With a little more exploration, you can find out how much money is spent by all kinds of organizations, large and small, to lobby our lawmakers about specific bills. And I'll tell you, that is very eye-opening. Well, this presentation has given you just a bare introduction, but you'll find that these websites are powerful resources. I encourage you to take some time to explore these sites for yourself. And don't be shy about asking your assembly rep or state senator's office for assistance. That's their job, after all. The League of Women Voters is devoted to encouraging active and informed participation in government. We applaud you for your interest in following legislation as a bill becomes law. And we hope this presentation helps you get started and helps you follow that legislation a little more easily. Thank you for being an informed citizen.